What if I told you that the Roman Empire, the greatest empire of the ancient world, was born not from a sword, not from politics, but from a river that whispered to shepherds, watched kings rise and emperors fall, and silently carried the weight of a civilization on its shoulders. This isn't just a river, it's the Tiber, the lifeblood of ancient Rome, and it shaped more than just geography. It sculpted history. Rome was built on its banks, fed by its waters, defended by its currents, and yet most people today barely remember its name. In this video, we'll uncover why Rome was built exactly where it was, how the Tiber fueled Roman conquest and global dominance, the river's secret role in myths, trade, wars, and even religion, and how its legacy still flows quietly beneath the modern streets of Italy. This is more than history. It's a story of power, nature, and destiny, all flowing in one winding, muddy stream. Subscribe to GeoStrat, and let's follow the current. Back to where Rome began, the birthplace of a legend. Long before Rome had legions, before Caesar, before empires, there were two abandoned infants, floating in a basket down a river. The Tiber, the twins, Romulus and Remus, the mythical founders of Rome. Legend says they were the sons of a mortal woman and the god Mars. Doomed to die, they were cast into the river. But the Tiber, rather than drowning them, became their savior. The twins washed ashore at the base of Palatine Hill, raised by a she-wolf in a cave, and later, one of them, Romulus, would found the city that bore his name, Rome. But myths aside, there's real geography behind Rome's origins. The Tiber wasn't just scenic, it was strategic. Rome sits about 15 miles inland from the Tyrrhenian Sea, close enough for trade, far enough to be safe from seaborne raiders like the pirates who plagued coastal settlements. The 7 hills surrounding the Tiber gave Rome a defensive advantage, and the river itself. It provided fresh water, fertile floodplains, and a natural highway for goods and ideas. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of villages near the Tiber as early as 1000 BCE, long before Rome's traditional founding date of 753 BCE. So while Romulus and Remus may live in myth, the truth is just as impressive. Rome rose where nature and necessity intersected, where geography offered power, and the Tiber offered promise. A river doesn't just carry water. Sometimes, it carries the future. The artery of power, trade, commerce, and Roman expansion. Picture this: barrels of olive oil from Hispania, sacks of grain from Egypt, marble from Greece, all gliding silently down a muddy green river toward the beating heart of an empire. That river was the Tiber, and it was Rome's economic superhighway. Long before highways, trains, or shipping lanes, the Tiber was how Rome fed its people, moved its military, and built its monuments. At its mouth sat Ostia, Rome's legendary port city, the empire's gateway to the Mediterranean. From there, ships would offload cargo onto flat-bottomed boats, perfectly designed to ride the Tiber's winding currents inland to the capital. These boats hauled salt, timber, bricks, grain, wine, and exotic imports. Even slaves. Everything the empire needed flowed upstream, and everything Rome produced flowed back out to the world. And it wasn't just cargo. The river itself powered water wheels, cooled blacksmith forges, and flushed waste through Rome's early sewage systems. The Tiber also shaped the layout of the city. Roads, forums, temples, all aligned with river access in mind. Even Rome's famous aqueducts often worked in tandem with the river, bridging valleys and feeding public fountains and baths. As Rome expanded, Its economic arteries stretched thousands of miles. But they all led back to one vital pulse: the Tiber. It was the empire's spinal cord, carrying not just goods, but influence. In a way, controlling the Tiber was Rome's first act of empire building. Because to dominate the Mediterranean, you had to first master your own river. Other empires had rivers. Egypt had the Nile, Mesopotamia the Tigris and Euphrates, but only Rome turned a river into a global power machine. Water in war, the Tiber in Rome's military strategy. In ancient times, rivers weren't just sources of water, they were shields, borders, and battle lines. And for Rome, the Tiber was all three. The early Roman kingdom, surrounded by powerful rivals like the Etruscans to the north and the Sabines to the east, had one key advantage. The Tiber River acted as a natural moat, separating friend from foe. Try crossing a fast-flowing, unpredictable river with an army, supplies, and siege equipment. The Tiber made that a nightmare. That's why early bridges like the Pons Sublicius were so crucial. Guarded day and night, these crossings were both lifelines and choke points. In fact, one of the most iconic Roman legends, Horatius at the Bridge, tells of a lone soldier defending Rome by holding the Tiber crossing against an invading army, buying time as the bridge was destroyed behind him. Without the Tiber, there is no legend. Without the river, perhaps no Rome. As Rome grew, the Tiber also became a logistics corridor. During the Republican Empire, troops, weapons, and food supplies moved swiftly along its waters to staging grounds across Italy. The river wasn't just Rome's first defense, it was also its fastest reinforcement. Even in times of internal conflict, the Roman civil wars, the rise of Caesar, controlling the river crossings meant controlling access to the capital. In Roman strategy, to hold the Tiber was to hold power. So next time you walk beside a quiet river, remember, some waters have seen more war than peace. And the Tiber, it helped build one of history's most militarized empires. Not just by what it gave, sacred waters, the Tiber in religion and Roman culture. The Romans didn't just sail the Tiber, they worshipped it. To them, the Tiber wasn't a passive stream. It was a divine force, a god with moods, meaning, and immense power. His name was Tiberinus, the river god of Rome. Crowned in reeds, cloaked in tradition, he ruled the waters that fed the empire. Every year, the Romans honored him with ceremonies, offerings, and festivals, asking for his favor and forgiveness. One ritual involved priests known as the Pontifice, tossing sacred objects into the river to purify the city and seek protection. Another, the Arge ceremony, saw straw effigies symbolizing human sacrifices floated down the Tiber, a chilling echo of more ancient rites. Many of Rome's temples and sacred spaces stood close to the river, including those honoring Portunus, the god of ports and harbors. Because where there was water, there was the divine. And not all rituals were peaceful. The infamous Tarpeian Rock, perched above the river, was where traitors were executed, hurled into the waters below. The river didn't just bless Rome. To the Romans, the Tiber was a boundary, not just between land and water, but between the mortal and the divine, the seen and the sacred. In its currents, they saw more than survival or strategy. They saw the soul of Rome itself, flowing endlessly toward eternity, decline, pollution, and transformation, from empire to modern Italy. All empires fall, and when Rome collapsed, the mighty Tiber, once worshipped, defended, and engineered, was left to wander. Without engineers to dredge it, without priests to sanctify it, the river began to change. Floods became frequent. Disease spread through its waters. Once a source of power, the Tiber became a threat, During the Middle Ages, the river choked with silt and sewage, its currents, no longer tamed by Roman aqueducts and embankments, overran entire neighborhoods. In 1598, one of the worst floods in Roman history submerged the city in over 4 meters of water. Shops, churches, and homes were swept away. The Tiber had turned from lifeline to liability. And then came industry. Factories poured chemicals and dyes into the river. Slaughterhouses dumped waste. By the 1800s, the Tiber was more poison than power. So Italy struck back. In the late 19th century, engineers built the massive stone embankments that still wall the river today. These walls tamed its floods, but also walled off its soul from the city. And yet, the river remains. Today, the Tiber flows through Rome as a symbol, not a source. No longer sacred, no longer feared, but still respected. A silent witness to centuries of triumph and turbulence. It's no longer the lifeblood of an empire, but the Tiber endures, scarred, reshaped, but still flowing. Because history, like rivers, never truly stops. It just changes course. The Tiber River has flowed for millions of years, but for a brief moment in that vast timeline, just a few centuries, it carried the weight of the greatest empire the world had ever known. It was a road before there were roads, a god before there were cathedrals, a power source before electricity, and in many ways, it was Rome. It shaped where the city began, how it grew, and even how it survived. From feeding newborn twins in a basket to feeding a city of 1 million. From carrying the prayers of priests to carrying the ambitions of emperors. The Tiber is not the longest, and even now, in the age of highways and satellites, the Tiber still flows. A reminder that even the greatest empires rise from something simple. A stream of water winding through land, waiting for someone to build beside it. Empires fade, monuments crumble, but the river remembers. If you believe geography shapes destiny and rivers write history, subscribe to GeoStrat. Because the story doesn't stop here. It just flows forward.